Hello, welcome. Good morning. How is everyone? So great? So great. Wow. Okay, more coffee. We need more coffee. I don't need more coffee. I won't do that to you. I've had one cup. We'll be good. However, the theme of the Kaufman Foundation is caffeinating one cup at a time. So I don't know if I'm allowed to double fist the coffees or if I'm supposed to wait, but that's me. So welcome. We're super excited. My name is Tania Browning, and I'm the MC for this event. Kim in the back is the leader. Trever, the magic, the Oz guy that makes it all happen. And then we have our presenter, Kat. Awesome. And so I was going to talk a little bit about Million Cups and our history. And I was waiting for the slide that said it because I didn't have it memorized, but it's super awesome. But we are...
Yeah, let's do that.
That's okay. And I got some notes. There we go. Free weekly event features 1 to 2 local startups. We engage, educate, and accelerate the entrepreneurs in our community. Best practices or best place to connect with the Rogue Valley creative community. And so that's all the stuff I'm supposed to say. And then the stuff that I go off script about is that, we're really, really lucky to have this space that I think inspires creativity and then brings humans who are awesome. I like to think that CreatorWorks, which is where I work, is a unicorn collector. But I really do believe that the Hivve is as well. So we're super blessed to have this space that helps all of the creative energy flow. So with that, there's more. See, I gotta tell you, I do not follow scripts well, and so the people who know me would be so proud that I'm staying on script. But it's clunky. So here's the QR code. If you would please scan the QR code and check in. This will help connect you to some of the resources of 1 Million Cups. It will help connect you to the presenters, the platform, and then also all of the presentations from the past. And it helps us gauge how we're doing. And so without further ado, we have our presenter is Kat, Bonney, and Rogue Innovation Hub is being reimagined, and there's a glare on the screen, and mindset and connection where community members work on projects, design projects, learn from each other while sharing access to ideas, resources, equipment, and technology. And it's been a pleasure to work with Kat on a lot of different community projects, really connecting those resources. So very excited to hear your presentation. And so come on up, and I will step on out. Thank you. Thanks, Kat.
Thank you, Tania. So I figured this morning we're among friends, and one of my practices is to break patterns, so you all must stand up and take a deep breath with me, because that's the only way you can release energy and actually give back, right? So shake it out. Thank you very much, and you can stay standing if you want. But I'm going to start with my presentation, and some of you may have heard this before, but in your daily life, it is either one day I'll do it, I'll get around to that, or it is day one. So I wanted to put up my QR code. There is my connection. I think it goes to my dot card, and it's got all my links for all sorts of fun things if you want to scan that. Otherwise, we can connect later. I'll give that to you as well. But I am the executive director for Common Connections, and we started in 2016. So it was a little odd that I got the opportunity to speak. I'm not a newbie in terms of a startup, but we are a community-formed, community-based organization that came out of a Ford Family Foundation cohort. So from that, we are grassroots, and we are here to actually build our community that way, and that is our byline, creating community together. So this morning, I want to give you some context, I want to give you some perspective, and I want to give you a reason to give. So that's kind of, I was trying to think of it in threes are a good number, see if I can give you those and encapsulate that this morning. So here's one of my favorite quotes, and this by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The mind, once stretched by a new idea, never returns to its original dimensions. And I don't know if you've ever tried to test that or not. Many times. So this morning as we'll start with giving context. So giving context, obviously in the introduction, Rogue Innovation Hub, has there was some specific information that Trever was able to grab, and that was during the COVID time, was probably up on our website at the time. Back in 2016, oddly enough, at the same time, the City of Grants Pass was doing with Econ Northwest their strategic plan and a walkability study. And one of the things that came out of that was to develop a feasible concept for a business incubator, a makerspace, or a public market. Now that got my creative juices flowing, and I jumped right into that just as a community member. Let's do it, let's make it happen. What do we gotta do? Show me where to go. You know, I'm one of those people, and you probably know me personally, that is the way I am. Let's make it happen, let's go. So at that point in time, I think I had to throw on the brakes. I probably had my wife standing behind me, putting her hands on my shoulder, saying, just hold on, just wait a minute. So enter the characters. And at that time, it was a matter of understanding, probably getting a full perspective of what we were actually doing and what that was going to look like in our community. And the characters that came forward were obviously the City of Grants Pass, the SBDC, we had RCC right there in the mix, and of course, chamber members were coming out of the woodwork. They wanted to see it happen, and I put up my favorite logo. It's the people for Grants Pass, because that's what was going to make this happen, and we all wanted to see it come to fruition. So from all of that, which I may give a little bit more history, but in a private conversation tell you all the different things that happened, but I won't bore you with those details, the Rogue Innovation Hub was conceived. And from that, there was a personal connection. That personal connection was the fact that that domain name is mine, again. It went to RCC and it came back. But that's because I felt it was so important for us to have a placeholder, and this has to happen. Whether it's called that or not, doesn't matter. It's the concept of how we can create a space that works together with lots of different entities, lots of different groups, and makes things come to fruition. I'll give you a little bit more perspective. We had money come from those relationships. Huge USDA grant came down. RCC stepped up in a huge way, and they offered not only space, but they offered leadership, and that was what we were really looking for, that movement forward. But as you can see at the bottom of this page, even though money came from RCC and with help, it only lasted until March of 2020 because of a little thing called the pandemic. And I had a fun little video that I pictured where there was a foot on a rock kicking Rogue Innovation Hub down the hill. But of course that didn't work, so I'll just give you the illustration there. But the idea is that that was the first thing to go on the chopping block. Understandably, lots of things were happening. We had a lot of things that were unknown. People didn't know what they were going to be doing tomorrow. Where's my food going to come? Supply chains having an issue, all sorts of different things, right? You know, you experienced it. The point is, there was a time where we felt like we need to jump in and we need to hold it. And that was one of the first phone calls I got, was from the business liaison from the city. Rogue Innovation Hub is going away. It's going to be cut by RCC. We don't want to see that happen. Can you help? And I said, yeah, absolutely. What can we do? All that meant was to stand in the gap. So if you see from this illustration, it was Common Connections just coming forward. What can we do to hold it so it doesn't go crashing and disappear? And at that point in time, I really just wanted to be in the background and help facilitate from the people that were in the steering committee. What could they do? How could I help them and be that organization? So we had some people come onto our board, and we had different things. We experienced so much in terms of understanding how the grant system works, different things that were available. I'd never written a $750,000 grant before. That was, huge in terms of just the effort that it took and all the community partners coming together. But from that, obviously, we didn't get that grant, but we learned a lot, right? We did listening sessions, we had community outreach, and we developed some new programming. One specific one was Plastics Reworked, centered around precious plastic, if you're familiar with that concept. And we are still working hard on that one, and there's lots of moving parts to it, but it is a very, very worthwhile program, and you will see that happen in my lifetime. We also were able to step up with different organizations and help them in terms of just getting a foothold, kind of like, it's almost like getting an idea of, I'm going to regroup myself and connect in a way that makes sense and see how I can move forward. What does that look like? So we joined with the opportunity to come onto the committee to help with the Southern Oregon Innovation Hub. Obviously, this piece came out of it. Thank you to Dr. Freeze actually bringing this together. So I want to give perspective on this piece. This is my last point. We're standing in the gap, We have to approach this from a different perspective. That rolling rock, so that it lands softly and we can take it apart in chunks instead of trying to eat it one bite at a time, which is what that almost $1 million grant was about. We've made more entrepreneur contacts. We've refined our clarity on what we need to do. And I'm gonna skip right through these, but I wanted to show you my best friend here. She is my inspiration, and this is her t-shirt she had on. One day, or day one, you decide. It takes one decision. So now I'm gonna give you a reason to give, and that reason to give is, I have one ask. And what we have narrowed it down to, that one thing, is we need space. We need the funding to pay for a multi-use space and to pay for those utilities so we can keep the doors open. And we've identified that based on previous activities in the community. We already have a landlord that's ready to help us out. And that particular property will help. But we need to fund that, and that's where we're going with this. We're looking for contributing partners. We're looking for program partners and participating partners. And I will share all of these later on with Trever so he can see, because we do have connections there. But the city and county's vision for the future of our economy is always good, obviously, and has lots of diverse elements to it. But our vision is all the people together create our community, and we're participating together. So I gave you some context, I gave you some perspective, and I gave you a reason to give. So if you want to just whip out your checkbook and write me a check right now, I'd appreciate it. But otherwise, you can pay online right there. But no, please connect with me. I'd love to have more conversations and see how we can help create our community together. Thank you. I can repeat it. That's what she did the other day, yeah. I can repeat it. Questions? Please, pepper me. Cool. Colleen. So she asked, I have a landlord that's interested and has a space. So previously, one of the programs here in town was offered by Equus, and they had a training center over on 5th Street, 735 5th Street, and that property has since been sold to a private owner, and they are splitting it out into two sections, and the side that was the industrial side is available, and it has all that classroom space and the workshop and the space in the back. And she offered me the whole building, but I said, I don't want to be greedy, but I could use the space for, if someone wanted to come in as a partner for daycare or something like that. So that's kind of where we've got lots of different options with that, but focusing on the partners that have stepped up already are the ones that need the actual more industrial type space. Anyone else? Elizabeth?
So the first part isn't a question, but I just wanted to say today careers, our focus was on small businesses. How do we support them walking downtown and seeing these empty spaces, and how do we fill them? How do we support those people that could be in them? So like, this is amazing. This is what we need to be doing. My question is, I know you guys got derailed because it was right at the beginning of COVID and everything went crazy. Has there been any projects that you guys have worked on that you can point to and say, hey, look, we did this?
There's two, so have there been any projects that we could point to because of being derailed by COVID? Rogue Innovation Hub, no. Sorry, I summarized what she said. Did you catch it? Okay. You're not feeling very good, so I just want to make sure. So in terms of being derailed by COVID, everybody was, and how do you regroup where you're going? And Rogue Innovation Hub, one of my slides I had in there, we put it on simmer. That was kind of our visual. It was like, this is not going away, we're going to let it simmer. And in the meantime, what can we do? And so that's why we did do those listening sessions, and we did create some connections in the community. And we did focus on a thriving program, the Precious Plastics program, but there are elements to it that needed to be put together as a process. So that's one piece that didn't totally come to fruition yet. Common Connections, on the other hand, was able to pivot and work with some other community partners and do other things that were similar in process and have a crossover effect. So because Common Connections is a facilitating organization, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that we could continue to help facilitate other programs. Even if one thing is not working, let's just let it sit for a minute. Maybe we'll get a breath and we'll figure it out, and then we'll come back to it another time. So, Marshall?
How many people are involved with Common Connections, and how is Common
So the question is, how many people are involved in Common Connections and how was it formed? I'll start with the short answer is we have 5 board members right now. That's the smallest we've ever been, and that's based on life. That's what happens. But I'm always open for more people that have it, that want to give back. We have an opening, I think, up to 15, I think, for our board. So we have room to grow. How did it start is through the Ford family cohort. We were the last cohort in Josephine County in the North County, and I got to participate with that. And it was about creating a community safety fair. And we had money left over from our event, and everybody decided, hey, we want to do this again. And we were like, well, we have to have an organization to hold this. How do we have this happen? So we took that money and applied to be a nonprofit, and boom, Common Connections was created. Mm-hmm. So,
Ken, I've been doing some work with local high school CTE programs, particularly kids at RCC. I'm just wondering, have you, with the makerspace idea, been able to engage with the high school and, taking the kids' skills that they've learned in the classroom setting and start incubating that into business ideas through that makerspace?
I think you bring up a good point, and to reiterate your question, have we contacted or been in cooperation with the CET programs in the high schools to help them to incubate some of their projects? And no, we have not, for the main reason we need space. That has been the common denominator every time we've had a discussion. It's like, oh, we could do this, or we could do that. And it's like, oh, this could happen. We need a space for that. And although we have community partners that are willing to let us have a parking lot, let us have different things, it doesn't create the stability that's needed to have the ability to bring in diverse groups that need to use the space. And a multi-use space is really, really important to this small community, because if we can share equipment and resources, then we're not duplicating efforts, and we're able to actually probably help each other more because of that sharing. So, are there any more questions? Colleen?
Aside from help to get started and some operational, what do the ongoing revenues look like to support it long term?
So what does the ongoing revenues look like to support the makerspace going forward? So when the studies were done specifically about the makerspace, there were a number of different models that were looked at, and every single one of them are no profit. They actually have to have some type of educational component to them to be even viable. And to me, that's kind of a sad realization, because the makerspace itself lends itself to so much. And I think that what they were actually evaluating were non-tangibles, things you can't actually quantify, except for maybe in numbers after a business is incubated, or after somebody goes through a CET program and brings over their widget and they want to make it. Those particular things you can actually quantify, but it's the intangibles of that relationship that was made with the high school, of having that door open so the kids could come after school and they could work on projects. Those are the things that are hard to quantify, that actually show that there needs to be support on just even a moral level of providing this as an opportunity for your community to have that space to grow and thrive. So, does that make sense? So.
So, on the space that's needed, I guess my question is, are you able to receive donations of equipment beforehand, or is the pitch point is really the funding for the space to get started?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the pitch point is the space.
And that lease amount, are they requiring like an extensive lease? Like what kind of?
They were asking for, and the word was ideally a year. That was in their language, which I had already told them, hey, I've got in my pocket, I can write you a check right now for 2 months' rent. But I want to make sure that within the next probably 14 days, I have commitments to be able to pay for a year's rent. That's what I'm beating the streets for. And I don't think that it's a hard ask, because it's not that much rent. My goal is $50,000 for a year, but that'll help us keep the lights on and give us a little cushion for the next year, that moving forward type thing. But in terms of the actual cost right off the bat, you're looking at maybe $2,500 a month. And that's just for that and the lights to stay on. So if I just sit in there on the floor and enjoy myself, then I could do that, right? But I really would like more people to come in and do these. And I think that having that space is going to provide that opportunity. So to another side to Colleen's point is how do you actually, if you've got money that's specifically for that, how do you take care of the other pieces? Well, we have so many community partners that want to market, they want to connect, they want to be able to bring in the equipment they already own, they already have. We have equipment that's in storage with people, they know where it's at. We have a commitment from the city still within the budget. There's over $150,000 that's sitting there for equipment and programming, not for overhead like rent and electricity, which is fine. That's fine. There's a time and place for that. So it's just a matter of getting the community partners together for that type of piece. And that's why this was, I was making this a very specific ask. We just need help funding to make sure that we can keep the lights on, and it can be restricted specifically to that, and I would appreciate that. Restricted. We just want this to pay for this. That's fine. Come look over my shoulder or whatever you need to do to keep me accountable. We're going to make this happen. So, Kim.
Kind of a triple question on it, try to be really clear with it. So one, just like a brief synopsis or blurb about what you are going to provide in the innovation space. So for some of us, maybe you've identified community needs. So what are you thinking you're going to offer in that innovation space? Two, how does that wrap around and support small business? Kind of echoing off the other question, how are you planning on supporting small businesses that are launching startups, right? So really give us kind of a synopsis of that innovation space. How is that space going to help business, startups, those types of things, entrepreneurs? What are you thinking around that? And then the other is there's a great need. There's a thriving, growing artist creative community that's happening here in Grants Pass and others. So also, how would you? I'm sorry, it's a very long question. How would you? So just give me a brief one. So how would you tailor it?
Well, you can't see my screen, but I brought back up my participant partners slide only because I wanted to highlight some of the people we've already talked to, specifically around industrial sewing. We have some people that are working in their garages that would like to be able to have a space that they can do that, and they would be able to offer mentorship for people that want to learn. My sister-in-law is an industrial sewer. We've got people that we're connected to that have these skills and have this understanding. We have people that are doing leather works. We've had an offer from a couple of community members that know of past cobblers that have equipment still that would like to pull that out to be able to use. We don't have a shoe repair person in Grants Pass. If you didn't know that, we have to go to Ashland or Medford. And we have a verbal that we have people that are willing to actually train that. So there's crossover of things that are necessary to our community and that could be helpful. The waste to resources, recycling and repurposing piece is connected directly to the plastics reworked. That piece, if you're not familiar, please, I will re-upload that particular video about plastics, precious plastic. But if you don't know anything about that, just Google it and you're going to find a whole host of information. It is a worldwide program for recycling plastic. And it starts with a very small project and be able to take that into the schools and to be able to use it in the community in different places. So there's lots of different pieces to that. And then finally, I'll mention the Rogue Valley Makers Guild. That really is just a brainchild of being able to have the artists come together, share their energy, fill in where they can. So it doesn't matter what the question is. I think our community will figure out the answer. We've got so many people in this room right here that could probably do it. There's 1,000,001 questions to go along with your 1,000,000 cups of coffee, but we will find the answers. So, anything else? Yes, Mr. Sunny.
Kim kind of took my question. I'm just going to pose it again. If you had to empower us with a 2-sentence synopsis of what the Rogue Innovation Hub is going to do, what can we say to others as we start talking about it away from here?
The first thing that I have to say is that you can tell them the Rogue Innovation Hub is not dead. And the reason I say that, and I say that jokingly even though we're in the month of October, is that if you talk to people that were any way connected to the conversations that were happening at the city level, they just saw it as a bureaucratic ball rolling down the hill and got mired in whatever. So tell them we were able to dust it off, shake it off. And we are wanting people to engage and give their energy to the Innovation Hub in the sense of what do they want it to be? How do they want to interact with it? So tell them it's not dead. and tell them to connect with Common Connections. And I would love to have a conversation with them about it because it's not about me. It's about our community and what do we need. And we got plenty of people with good ideas and things they want to do. They just don't know how to do it. And we've got great resources like the SBDC that they can go and sit down and get everything they need for business, but they didn't know how to even fully develop that idea yet. And that goes with sitting down with cups of coffee and fleshing it out with people like yourselves. That's how those ideas happen. So that was a long-winded way of saying 2 sentences. It's not dead. Come see Common Connections and see how it can help you.
I don't know if this is the right context for this. I still don't know what you do.
What I do?
No, with the Innovation Hub is going to do. I hear that there's a lot of things, a lot of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I would love a simpler version of this space is going to do X, therefore you should be inspired to write those checks.
Sure.
So
Okay, so the easy answer is we have a successful director of a makerspace here in our midst. Tania runs Craterworks, and I can point to her as an example. This is a great industrial space for makers that are on the industrial side. I can point to Allie French, say Allie is doing a fantastic job with Talent Maker City. That is a makerspace that has an education component to it that is getting at the grassroots with kids and getting them totally excited. So in terms of I can point to those and say we want to create something that's a hybrid of those. So does that help? Okay. Yes, sir.
What is your ideal relationship between K-12, your space, and RCC? And how are you going to interconnect and work your education pieces with the institutions around you?
To be quite honest, that's not my forte. I'll play ball with kids, but I will refer them to the experts in the room that understand how to do that crossover. My true heart is for the person who's been flipping burgers, and they know that they're meant more to this world than to flip burgers, and they want to learn how to do that and to be able to provide those opportunities. So I'm more of the young adult and the older adult, and even people my mom's age are like, I want to start over. You know, it doesn't matter. That's where I want the hub to be. So, yes, ma'am.
Very excited for this ingress pass in this part of the valley. Do you foresee having any like facilitated conversations with like these current partners, entrepreneurs, like bringing them into a conversation with you just to kind of get that momentum and create those little ambassadors, if you will, kind of just to tell the story of what the vision is, to spread it like, I won't say wildfire, but you know, like the grassroots effort, right?
Absolutely.
In makerspace is important. So I was just wondering if you've had recently or if you have any plans for some of those small community conversations that are like a hub or the library or anything of that nature to get that momentum going.
They have, and the question has been, have I had those conversations with organizations or groups? That's what I took from what you said. Is that correct?
Well, do you have any plans? I'm sure you have had them, but is there a plan for additional conversations to get the momentum going?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is having a space will allow that, so I can bring them in for that. I already have, it's on the books already for October 30th is for, we're going to be hosting greeters, and I will be probably doing a whole talk specifically around our community cottages program that we've been working with Energy Trust of Oregon for that, which is a Common Connections thing, but we're going to use the hub in order to incubate our own program. So that's, you know, I have a total vested interest in this happening too. You know, our community needs these things that we're working on as well. So that's how I look at it. So it's not just, I'm not just doing this because I'm doing it for free in many ways, because all I want is the lights to be turned on in the space. I want it to be there for people. So the answer is yes, and it happens one-to-one, and then those people keep talking. We have our social media pages, we have things like that. And if you have something where you want this to be discussed, I'm happy to come and have conversations with people as well. And the other side of that is, yes, let's just continue to plan to move forward with things. So, yes, sir.
You have stated this a few different times in different ways, but I want to give you one more opportunity to succinctly state how this
Thank you. I appreciate that, because being long-winded is my forte. So, to succinctly state, in order to move forward with the Rogue Innovation Hub, we need a space. We've identified a space that works for us, and we need funding to cover that space. We would like funding to cover for a year so that we can have some breathing room to get some things going. That, to me, would be a good start. So love it if you'd write me a check, send money, whatever you need to do. But it's one of those things where if we have the funding to do it, we're already writing grants also. So we know it's going to happen, but in the meantime, in the short term, I want to have our landlord feel very comfortable with us signing that lease and say, yes, here it is. We got the money in the bank. So, anything else? Thank you so much.
Kat, so thank you for coming and presenting this morning and telling us all about the Rogue Innovation Hub and Common Connections. And this is the coveted 1 million cups mug. The only way to acquire one of these is to present in front of these lovely people on a Wednesday morning of your choice.
Perfect.
So this, yes, thank you. Big hand for Pat Bonney, please. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. And I just wanted to, again, welcome you to this space. This is the Hive. This is a space that's created for community, for events, for art. We have the Hive Art Hub based out of this space, but it expands beyond this space. Yes, we have Colleen over here. She's the executive director of the Hive Art Hub. So, and I just wanted to thank you all for being here and helping support these innovations that are happening, these businesses, these organizations that are trying to support. And what we're going to try and do as we move forward, you know, it's hard, like we do this every week, right? And recruiting people to come present every week is, it's a tough thing. People's schedules and whatnot, it's like people are excited to do it, but I can't do it till November or January, right? Which is totally fine, but we need more applications of people who are willing to come present for all of you, their businesses specifically. Then our plan is we want to sort of pair a business sharing their business with you and presenting their business with also a presentation from possibly like a service provider or a nonprofit organization that's in the space, so that the entrepreneurs that are here, coming, participating, we can cross-pollinate, share what actually exists, because a lot of entrepreneurs are so tunnel vision focused on what they're doing that they don't know what the resources are that are available to them, right? And that's another reason, that's one of the big purposes of this experience, is to create those connections. So again, I appreciate you all being here. Please tell your friends, tell your family. This is like the coolest thing that you could ever come to in your whole life. It's amazing. But come back, please. Keep coming. This community will keep growing and building. And we're really just trying to help support the economic development, to help support new businesses. Yes. And to grow the energy, the environment, to support cool things happening, and we want to keep doing that. So keep engaging and bringing people to the table, and anytime you're talking to a business that's a newer business, say, hey, you should go present at, right? And then send them to us, and we'll get them set up and get them scheduled. Cool? So one more thing, y'all aren't drinking enough coffee when you come. So something else that I wanted to say is 1MC is about presentations and the talkback sessions. Those are like the biggest pieces of it. And it doesn't end when that presentation ends. I'd invite y'all to refill your cup, hang out, talk to each other, cross-pollinate, ask questions. Pat's still here. If you had some clarifying questions or you had some things to offer or talk about, this is the perfect time to do that. Make sure you know everyone that's in the room, because there's hidden gems everywhere in this room. All right? Cool? Yes.
I wanted to add something on the conversation around innovation hubs. So we have something called the Southern Oregon Innovation Hub, part of 9 hubs funded through Business Oregon. It was quite an honor and to work at So Ready